Public safety, it's one of the main topics we're tackling this morning with Queens Borough President Donovan Richards, who's checking in with us this morning as part of our weekly series where we check in with the Borough President. So good morning, Borough President Richards. Thanks for being with us.
Good morning. Good morning, Hazel and Dan. Great to see you both.
Good morning.
Good to see you too. So let's start with yesterday's shooting in Jamaica, since this is a busy hub, usually packed with commuters, which also has a strong police presence, even though the NYPD crime stats are showing that the number of shootings are actually down in Queens. For a lot of people that live there and what we see here in the city, it really doesn't feel like, with everything we've been reporting. So what do you make of these numbers and what reality is?
Well, let me just say that crime has continuously gone down. These shootings we're starting to see go down in Queens South. So I do want to commend the NYPD violence interrupters who are doing hard work every day on the ground to deal with the gang, to do gang interventions across the borough as well. So there's been a lot of challenges coming out of this pandemic. And I often like to remind people that, you know, we don't have any gun manufacturers in Southeast Queens, East New York, or East Harlem. How are these guns getting in is beyond measure, and we need to do everything we can to make sure that we get these guns off the streets.
Yeah, you just talked about some of the gang violence, right, which likely played a role in this fatal shooting of a 15-year-old boy that was riding the A train in Far Rockaway 2 weeks ago. Sad story here. So, you know, when you look at it in the totality of what you're seeing play out in terms of gangs, it's a problem plaguing not only your borough, but across the board. So is your office meeting with precinct commanders and community leaders to come up with a strategy to combat gang violence, but not only within Queens? Is it more of a communication between all of the boroughs together?
Well, we do monthly public safety meetings, and I'm in constant contact with the NYPD and obviously community stakeholders who play a key role here. But to solve gun violence, you can't just look at it from a law enforcement perspective. You know, we've got $300 million invested in Far Rockaway. We are currently in the process of building out 2 new community centers, a new $40 million library. So the key has to be investing in these young people, and getting them out of the gang life is critical. Yeah. But the way to do that is to ensure that we're investing in them, investing in programming. And the Rockaways is actually, the 101 is one of those success stories that the media doesn't often talk about. It's the only precinct in Queens where crime is actually down. We have had some challenges with gun violence, but the work continues to ensure that we're investing in these young people so they're not joining gangs in the first place.
You know, what's really sad is what we're seeing. The perpetrators, the victims, all getting younger and younger. And starting today, 350 additional school safety agents are being posted at the schools all across the city after a series of loaded weapons and violent attacks in recent weeks. So several of those incidents took place in Queens. So where do you stand on putting metal detectors in all the schools and bringing back the NYPD patrols during dismissal?
Well, we just did a meeting with every superintendent in Queens and the entire school safety division in NYPD just last week to check in, and we obviously do have concerns about more weapons coming into the schools. Now, let me just say this. We can put metal detectors at every school. That doesn't stop what can happen outside of the school, right? Mm-hmm. So we have to make sure that we're resolving a lot of these key issues within communities, right? Because a lot of times violence seeps into the schools because of what's happening on the outside of the schools. Also, this sense of not being safe, getting on the trains is another reason. We see some upticks in weapons coming into the schools as well. So we have to deal with the issues that are impacting communities on the outskirts. Otherwise, you know, I went to Jamaica High. People just kept the weapons outside of the school. You know, they didn't bring them in. Their friends would hold it up the block for them. So we have to deal with those issues in order to really tackle the violence that we're seeing across the school system as well.
Understood. Yeah, it's a multi-pronged approach, both in the halls of the school and then also on the sidewalks outside. You know, I do want to pivot right now and talk about we marked the 10th anniversary this past weekend of Superstorm Sandy. Devastated the Rockaways in particular in your borough, right? Major infrastructure improvements, we've been talking about them, that have been made, but some residents are still dealing with the effects of not only that storm, but then storms that came since. So what's being done right now to help those folks?
Well, I was out there Friday with the Army Corps. I'm very happy with the progress we're seeing in terms of creating more protective barriers along the beach. The big issue is the bay, because that's our back door. The Army Corps did release a plan that seems like it could take take 20 years to even get something in the ground on, and I'm asking them to expedite this project because it's a $52 billion project. And we need to make sure that we're protecting both the front door, which is the beach, and the back door, which is the bay, to ensure that we're not back here again. I am also happy with a lot of the work the city is doing. We did secure about $2.5 billion, which is going into storm sewer upgrades, which is going to be helpful as we see more stormwater surge happening across the borough and across South Queens and the Rockaways. But we, without a doubt, need to see the Army Corps investing more.
Yeah, I was going to say progress, but is it enough really to protect that area from another storm? Let's switch gears again. Talking affordable housing, because you've been pushing to get approval from the City Council on the $2 billion Innovation Queens project, which would totally transform Astoria. But critics are saying that low-income residents are going to be priced out of that area. I mean, you see that happening in the other boroughs. So, you know, we're talking about if the project will get a green light. So how can you ensure that this isn't going to happen?
Well, one, it's important to look at the facts. Astoria and Community Board 1 have only built 400 units of affordable housing over the course of the last decade. So Innovation Queens, while imperfect, certainly puts 1,100 units of affordable housing on the table. 500 of those units going to people earning $30,000 and less a year, which are folks who are in public housing. We have the ability to also take people out of shelters and put them into this housing. So I'm saying we can't talk our way out of this affordable housing crisis. We have to build our way out of it. Yeah. And there's already pressures in Astoria. Yeah. Astoria is an affluent neighborhood. It's a place people want to be. So we have to ensure that we're also building for everyone. And Innovation Queens, while not no magic bullet in solving the affordability crisis that we find ourselves in, you can't sneeze at 1,100 units either.
Yeah, we don't want to see rents go up. I mean, Ridgewood, Queens, named one of the coolest neighborhoods in the country, Borough President.
Queens is the coolest place in the country. So everybody wants to be here now. But with that comes those pressures.
Don't want to get it priced out.
Of course.
Thank you for being here, continuing our interviews with all the borough presidents. Are you dressing up tonight with your son going trick-or-treating?
Yes, we are. I'll be at the Jackson Heights Halloween parade this evening. I'll be 101 Dalmatian because I was up there with Coretta DeVille a few weeks ago, who was really upset that we had open streets up there. So I'm hoping that'll change her mind.
Okay, there you go. We like to see it. Post some pictures.
Whatever it takes.